Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth, Clinical Psych Registrar from Prosper Health Collective. Today I'll be talking about some tips to manage anxiety. Now the first tip is to notice what anxiety might look like for you yourself. Now, for some people, anxiety may look like having butterflies in their stomach. For others, it might look like having sweaty palms, racing heartbeat, lots and lots of racing thoughts, lots of negative thoughts, and for some other people they could feel a little bit more irritable, a bit more teary, or maybe even a combination of all these different symptoms or experiences in your body that you may notice. And the reason why we want to start noticing how anxiety looks like for you as a person is because it puts you in a better position then to actually implement strategies to manage your emotions, to manage your feelings of anxiety. So for example, before you realize, if you were to notice that your anxiety is really escalating really quickly, you might just want to take a step back at that moment and do a few deep breaths or go for a walk and then come back to whatever it is that's been anxiety provoking. The second tip is to actually notice how you might behave when you experience feelings of anxiety. And oftentimes, because of the nature of anxiety, which can feel really, really scary, a natural tendency might be for us to gravitate towards using distraction. So that could be behaviors or activities that we engage in to actively distract ourselves from the feelings of anxiety. So that might look like, for example, going to the fridge, opening the fridge and getting bars of chocolate out, yum, 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 watching television, or, avoiding the stressor itself that's causing you anxiety. And sometimes it works for you, and sometimes it works only for the short term. But if we start considering the long-term outcome, you may find that distractions doesn't really always work all the time. And it only works for as long as you can distract yourself in terms of management of anxiety, right? So what we have learned from research is a simple way to manage anxiety is actually to do the contrary to distraction. It's actually to start acknowledging anxiety for what it is and to perhaps even give it a name. The simple act of giving a name to anxiety or to feelings in general activates the prefrontal cortex of your brain. And what that does is it actually puts a brake on your brain's alarm system, which is the amygdala that scans for threat, the fight or flight system of the brain. So at that point, you can also start noticing, in general, as another tip for management of anxiety is to actually notice what you might be thinking in your head. And oftentimes when we look at anxiety or when we feel anxiety, our thought process, you may notice, could be particularly negative, and to top it off, it might seem especially convincing. So for example, you might be fully convinced by your thought that, yep, I should be so worried about this situation here. This situation is so bad, and yes, I am a failure, etc., etc. And in those moments, you have to understand that your thoughts can actually feel like they are facts, and they can be very, very convincing and very, very negative. Remember that your mind, the job of your mind is to actually keep you safe. And what that involves is that sometimes and oftentimes they will be actively scanning for threats. And especially in the context of what you really value, it could feel really threatening. But how much of those contents are really facts? How much of it are really just worries masquerading as facts at that moment when you feel anxious, right? So one thing to remember is that thoughts are really just thoughts. They are words. You do not have to give them power over you. This means that your thoughts can be there, but you can still choose how you respond to those thoughts. Or maybe not even respond at all, because you don't have to take them so seriously. They are just thoughts. So instead, you can notice the thought as a thought acknowledge of its existence, and redirect your attention back to the here and now, in the present moment, whatever you're doing right now and right here. Understand that emotions do come and go. They are the biology makeup. Emotions will pass. So will anxiety. If we ride through it, it will pass. If you need any help in managing anxiety, perhaps you just want to have a chat to someone about your feelings of anxiety, or even just noticing what these anxiety symptoms are like for you, please feel free to get in touch with one of us at Prosper Health Collective. Thank you.